everyone. Welcome back once again to our edition of ZepoTalks. In this case, with the amazing Myriam Hofri joining us for some great conversation. My name is Christina Carranza. I am the Global Head of Sales of Zepo Intelligence. We focus on tackling the human part of cybersecurity from an awareness perspective, trying to make cyber a safer ecosystem for everyone, both enterprises and their employees. Today we have Myriam. Myriam, hello. How are you feeling today?
Hey, Chris. I'm great. I'm very happy to be here.
It's great to see you again, looking beautiful in your red sweater and amazing glasses. Every time I see Myriam, I always say the same thing. Myriam, do you want to go ahead and introduce who you are so that the audience can get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. So hi. My name is Myriam Hofri. I am based in London, although originally from France and Morocco. So consider myself a little bit like a citizen of the universe. I've spent the last 22 years in financial services here in London, mainly managing projects, running operation, and my last position in a big corporate was as a chief operating officer for a fairly large organization. I am now the founder and the CEO of a consultancy company. So I set up my own shop, and I do provide all sorts of services for financial institutions that need my help and my skill set. Voilà.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us. Very much looking forward to hearing all about your expertise. The topic that brings us here today is around financial awareness in action. And not only that, but building or how we can build resilient teams and risk-ready organizations. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kickstart our first topic. And I'd love, Myriam, for you to share your thoughts on how you see awareness and how it can be positioned as a pillar within financial risk and the financial risk culture. Is it something that's important? Is it part of the conversation? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think, okay. So it depends how you look at the risk framework. For me, as a CEO, as a project manager, as a former risk manager as well, because I spent a fair amount of time in running operational risk teams and departments. Human is at the center of everything we do, any risk framework, and you can't take into account this element without thinking about awareness. If we want the human to operate in the best of their ability and act in the best of the company's interest, you absolutely need to ensure that there is an element of awareness. And so awareness is something that I will define as this is basically behaving in the right way when no one is looking. So that's, and that, from my point of view, this is the ultimate gatekeeper that prevents things from going wrong within an organization. You can have the most robust data-driven technology to prevent failures. If the human is not aware, the human is sitting at the center is not trained and educated, then you're still exposed to a high risk of failure.
You mentioned a short phrase before that struck a chord for me. You said, at the end of the day, awareness and cyber culture is all around how you behave when someone else is not looking. We at Zepo, we usually say that just because you are aware doesn't mean that you care. And I would like for you to deep dive a little bit on it. Do you think this is still an issue for financial institutions, that employees just are not bothered about cybersecurity, about risk, and they see training almost like a check in the box action more so? And if you see that this is still a problem, could you suggest ways where we can mitigate this issue?
Très bien. So I've been in financial services, and by the way, I talk about financial services only because this is professionally pretty much all I know. So the good news is that I have absolutely seen a shift in the last 20 years in the mindset of individuals that a large financial organization basically onboard or hire. The type of personality or the type of character, or dare I say, the morality of individual that we would bring to those financial institutions actually became increasingly important. It's not just, the vetting of whether you have the academic credential, whether you have the professional experience. It's also the mindset, the culture, dare I say. And that over the years, I've seen that becoming more and more important criteria of selection of the individual that we agree to bring on board. And from that point of view, I think it's a good news. Individuals are being vetted in a different way 22 years, now than they've been when I started my career 22 years ago. So I think that the culture shift that we have seen, especially post 2008 crisis, has played a very important role in the way that a firm kind of manage their recruitment. Having said that, you can have the best intention people within, let's talk about the trading floor, for example, with the best intention, towards their clients, toward the people that they are servicing. Those people would still need to be given a safe space where if something, doesn't seem quite right, they feel completely safe to raise it, to have a conversation, to make sure that that particular issue that may be an issue may materialize into an issue or not. But they will be it's paramount for them to be given a safe space where they can express their concern. So it's a matter of making sure that you have the right individuals on board. Then the second element is creating a safe space where concern can be expressed. And of course, once you have done that, you have to equip the organization and the individual with a tool to address whatever gap they have identified, mitigate whatever risk they have spotted. So for me, really, that's a combination of those three elements. And talking about the evolution, if you think about those three elements, I can absolutely see financial services heading in the right direction. The individuals are, as I said, a bit more risk aware. There is absolutely policies of, I think in my last organization, one of the projects that we've put in place is a speak up, listen up type of culture and policies, not just the culture. It also has to be embedded within the framework. And then we, of course, post that implementation of tools. And I think that we can talk about tools later when it comes to KPIs and metrics and everything that AI can help with to bring the transparency that you sometimes need. Those are for me the three elements, and we're heading in the right direction for sure.
So again, you mentioned a couple of very interesting points. And I'd love to deep dive on the responsibility under whom financial awareness or financial cybersecurity awareness and culture change falls under. And a lot of the time we look to our leaders, right? One can understand that it's the responsibility of the entire organization, but maybe from a top-down approach, the leaders should take an important or a priority stance in how they try to move or evolve institutions in a more cyber safe direction. So this brings me to one of our next topics. We know that financial services face more pressure, more automation, more complexity, and awareness is becoming like a thread that connects culture, leadership, operational risk. I'd love to maybe start addressing another quick question. How can leaders truly prepare for this and be ready to respond confidently when there are crises and market shifts in this ecosystem, right? So with AI, automation, all these changes and shifts that are occurring, how can we empower leaders to be able to be prepared? And what are you seeing within your area of expertise?
Yeah. So just before I move on to that question, you spoke about risk awareness and who should be ultimately responsible for the risk framework and the integrity of the risk framework. I've always thought of risk as being a collective responsibility. Every single individual in a firm, from the very top management to the most junior staff, should feel responsible for the integrity of the business that they run. So that's number one. There is absolutely a tone from the top. So the direction of travel needs to come from the top. So yes, it's a collective responsibility, but the executive, the so-called executive, needs to give the tone, and then of course you need to have the mechanism for the message to trickle down. Back to your question about leadership and readiness to challenges that the market can present when it comes to risk. Number one, and this is something that I'm not struggling, but something that still baffles me. Information is absolutely paramount. The market is moving at an unprecedented speed. And I think that information, acquiring information, remaining relevant, remaining up to date, I think training is also part of a massive part of that needs to become part of the day-to-day operation, starting from the executive all the way down. I am still going back to cyber risk, or using cyber risk as an example. I am still absolutely baffled by the lack of training that board members will have when it comes to cyber risk. Cyber risk is a continuously evolving topic, as you know, Chris, at an unprecedented speed because of the introduction of AI and the rush to integrate AI into organization. But yet, the awareness around the cyber risk, the training around cyber risk, the training around the latest trend on cyber risk is not even a topic that is being discussed at a board level. And that baffles me. And we discussed that, Chris, when we met for a breakfast a few months ago. I absolutely believe that senior management have a duty of continuous training. Of course, we need to give them the bandwidth to be able to do that, and being continuously aware and informed about the emerging risks that appear almost on a weekly basis when you think about what's been happening over the last few months.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the context. I really loved one of the initial points that you made around cyber risk training, or even just cyber risk culture being a collective responsibility. We at Zepo, it's something that we believe in. If we don't have top-tier management aligned with a common risk goal, and we don't have the junior levels of the enterprise as well, at some point communication will be lost, and it will be very difficult to achieve the mission.
Yes.
Ways where we can think about how organizations implement a positive cyber culture. And a lot of the times it comes down to policies, compliance, tools. But are these really effective? And how can we, if they are effective, tailor them so that they actually help us in our objective to creating a more aware and resilient employee ecosystem? Or maybe should we be thinking about something else that goes beyond just tools and policies if we really want to have a lasting cyber risk culture change? Let me know your thoughts for the financial institution ecosystem or in general, as you prefer.
Okay. So just to address the point on the policies and tools, do I believe in policies and tools? Yes, absolutely. Those are, I would say that is the minimum requirement, simple as that. It's a minimum requirement because policies provide guidance, tools, in theory should provide you transparency and should highlight, the pockets that you may have within your organization that warrant, a bit more scrutiny. Without the latter, you have no transparency, so you're basically navigating in the dark. And without the former, you don't know. You don't necessarily know, what you are holding your organization to account. So that needs to be, those two elements need to be in place. Having said that, and what I have seen, a point of failure of those two elements is You draft a policy, that's it, it's done, tick box exercise, and you file it, until the next review, which is typically for policies once every 3 years. Tools, pretty much the same thing, unless there is an introduction of a new set of risk that and the tool will need to be updated. The tool remains really much static. The risk framework, the risks in general, is an ever evolving thing. You are in the cyber risk space, Christina, and you know how creative people can be when it comes to cyber risk. So we're basically trying to mitigate something that is forever continuously evolving with tools that are, for most of them, static. That doesn't work. So our tools are absolutely necessary, but they need to be dynamic. And I know that they've been debate for many, many years about a dynamic risk framework and the technology that sits behind. So that needs to be dynamic, necessary and dynamic. Now, is that enough? Probably not. Because again, that goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning. Human is at the center of any risk framework. So the policies and the tools need to be accompanied with the right type of individual. I absolutely insist on that. And these individuals need to be equipped with, as we spoke about earlier, training, information. We need to literally carve out time and capability for people to carry on being trained on this type of topics. Again, the training, similarly to the tools and policy, has to be dynamic. It has to be dynamic. It has to be continuous. And this is something that organization need to carve out time and capability for. One point that I was actually meant to raise earlier, just before we dropped off, we spoke about leadership and ensuring that leadership keep risk and cyber risk in particular, on the top of the agenda. I think there is an element that can offer or common denominator across all this topic, and that's something that is really close to my heart, which is comp. I think that compensation and reward in any shape of form need to be linked to the individual ability and appetite to develop a risk mindset and to basically act as a risk ambassador for the organization. And this is something that needs to be part of the way that we run business. It's almost like a second skin, but that initially needs to be accompanied with a incentive, but also the flip side of that, which is a sanction. For me, those are the four elements. You have the policies, you have the tools, you have the training, but then you have also to have the kind of incentive and sanction. I don't like the word sanction, but I can't think about any better word to kind of trigger the right behaviors.
The way we usually call it, and I think that's what you're referring to, is positive compensation and negative risk consequence management. It's maybe a more politically correct way of saying you're going to be sanctioned if you click on something that you shouldn't or you don't do your training. I love that. I love one of the things that you said, which I think is very obvious and very true, is that tools are necessary, but they need to be dynamic. So we that operate in cyber simulation and awareness training tools, we struggle with this a lot, right? Because what does dynamic mean exactly? Obviously, it has to be ever changing and evolving with the ecosystem. But I would like you to deep dive on what exactly do you think dynamic is, and if you feel the tools that exist today, if you know of any, are really responding to how the ecosystem is changing, and if they're able to keep up with the speed of it. So again, I know it's a little bit of an abstract question, but it's something that triggered me. I was like, what does dynamic mean exactly? And I'd love you if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
D'accord. By the way, I don't do abstract. I'm a CEO. I'm very operational. Okay. So what I mean by dynamic. So first of all, I think there is maybe something that needs to be accepted. Um, the concept of risk appetite. The concept of risk appetite, we need to cater for the fact that technology is moving at a speed that unless, you are one of the technologies, you will struggle to be at a par with. So financial organization, even the most nimble one will struggle to remain, to move at the same speed as technology. As I said, the speed of change in that space is unprecedented. So I think that needs to be factored into our within our risk acceptance. So that's number one. Number two, when I talk about dynamic tool or dynamic framework, those are conceptually very simple. In the execution, maybe more difficult. But I'm thinking, for example, I'm sure that for the risk people listening, the concept of RCSA, risk and control self-assessment, which is basically a process that banks run on a periodic basis, usually yearly. And every year they basically refresh the assessment. And the idea of that particular type of assessment, for those who don't know, is to highlight or to put the spotlight on the risk, the operational risk that needs attention. And you come up with the concept of top operational risk, etc., that are then aggregated at an organizational level and addressed accordingly. When you think about a process such as RCSA, this is performed yearly, which means that once every year you will sit again in the concept of in a context of a trading floor. You will sit with the trading desk and you will look at the way they run their operation and they run their training activities. You take a snapshot at this point in time, and then you review the whole thing in a year later. By that time, the market has evolved. The client base may have changed. New element, new risks, like new type of cyber attacks will have may have occurred, etc., etc. So by the time we perform the next risk assessment, the world would have moved on dramatically. So there is a requirement for us to be able to capture continuously what's happening on the markets. And by that, what I mean concretely, I'm talking about for the operational risk manager to remain completely abreast of what's happening on the market in terms of, okay, so what are the products that are being, with trading is basically picking up? What are the regions that are where we see the flows coming from? Because looking into when you're an operational risk manager for based in London for London-centric business is a very, very different game, to be performing this type of activity from London for business that operates off out of Asia. So there is an element of understanding where the market is going in terms of your client, in terms of your product, but also in terms of the framework. So if there is an emerging risk that has been observed elsewhere in your business, this is absolutely something that will need to be integrated in your control framework, in your risk taxonomy, in your risk assessment. And this is something we used to do that in Excel, which is mad. So there is absolutely a requirement, for those processes to be moved onto platform, and this is where the technology element comes in, onto platform that are agile, that are nimble, where I could go and very easily add onto my risk taxonomy a set of risk that I have just seen emerging on the market, for a set of products that I have just seen, picking up, for a region that I have just seen, picking up in my trading books. This is what we're talking about. An awareness, but also the technology which is agile enough to integrate this quickly. And we're not talking here about 6 months cycle of release, which is when I started my career, what used to happen.
I think this is super interesting. Thank you for the extra context. We're almost out of time, so I wanted you to maybe wrap up with one phrase. If you could give our audience who's connected here today, and all cyber security professionals, CISOs, or culture leaders within the financial ecosystem, a top of mind quote or hint, or where we should be keeping our focus on for the next 3 to 6 months, what would it be?
One, I would say focus on the human and do not be afraid. Actually, embrace the idea of hiring diverse profile. And by the way, this is not a call, for diversity. That's not that. But I'm thinking that in an age of AI where where the basic, not basic, but the simple processes can be handled by AI, etc. That basically free up some time and capability for human to think. So what you want to have on your trading floor are people who are able to think, people who are able to think outside the box, people who are able to challenge the status quo, because everything else is done by the machine, is done by AI, which is great. The additional layer that you want is a critical mindset. So in your recruitment, get on board people who are able to develop a critical mindset. Get on board people who will not, be afraid of, raising their concern. Of course, as I said earlier, give them a safe space to be able to do that, and carve out time and capability for those people to keep being trained and, remain continuously aware of what's happening on the market. You can't expect someone to be a risk manager without them knowing what's happening outside of the four walls of the institution that they work for. They need to go to forums. They need to understand what's happening in the AI space. They need to understand what's happening in the cyber space, and bring all this knowledge plus the critical mindset onto your organization. And this, of course, helps with tools and policies, as we have already discussed, powered by AI, because I think that there is something that can be done by, can be helped by AI. And I think we're getting close to an almost perfect solution, or at least a solution within our risk appetite.
Amazing, Myriam. You brought up a lot of very interesting subjects, specifically the one about hiring the right people. And it opens a lot of questions, maybe for a later date where we can have another Zepo talk. A lot of the time, the cyber risk solutions that we have are focused on my current ecosystem and my current employees and trying to train them into a better cyber safer version of themselves. But what if we also had focus on the hiring side and also made a conscious effort in hiring already cyber safe cultural individuals who have this as top of mind? It's something that it's an idea that hadn't come up, at least occurred to me before. Thank you so much for your time. It was really enriching. Hopefully we'll be able to speak again. I'm going to say bye to everyone who's on the chat. Unfortunately, we do not have time to answer questions. We're a little bit over our slot. Myriam, it's been a great pleasure. I hope that you will be able to join us soon. And I hope you have an amazing rest of the day.
Merci, Chris and Zepo, for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Bye.